The moment my stepmom smiled and said, "Pack your bags. We're taking a trip," my heart jumped. Then she leaned close and whispered the destination, the one place I never imagined she knew about, and my blood went cold. I stood frozen in the hallway, my suitcase half open, while she watched me like a hunter who had already won. I didn't know yet if I was walking into a trap, or if this trip would finally set my revenge in motion. If you want to know how this ends, watch till the end. Like and subscribe so you don't miss what happens next. My name is Lily Carter, and before that day, I believed secrets stayed buried. I was 16 when my dad married Karen. Everyone called her kind and supportive. She brought muffins to school events. She hugged too tight. She smiled too much. After my mom died, people said I was lucky to get a stepmom who tried so hard. But Karen didn't try for me. She tried to replace me. At home, she erased my mom one soft step at a time. She took down photos. She moved furniture. She painted over my mom's favorite yellow wall with a cold gray. My dad didn't notice. Or maybe he didn't want to. I noticed everything. Karen had rules just for me. Don't lock your door. No phone after dinner. Tell me where you are always. She said it was love. It felt like a cage. At school, I stayed quiet. I learned to keep my head down and my plans hidden. I learned how to wait. The one thing Karen never touched was the old blue suitcase under my bed. It had been my mom's. Inside it were letters, photos, and one folded paper that mattered more than anything else. A map. It wasn't a normal map. It was hand-drawn, with red circles and notes in my mom's handwriting. The biggest circle was around a place in Arizona, a desert town with one long road, and a small motel drawn in ink. When I was little, my mom told me, if anything ever happens to me, this place holds answers. Then she got sick. Then she died. And Karen arrived like a shadow that refused to leave. I never told anyone about the map. Not my dad. Not my friends. And definitely not Karen. For years, I dreamed about that place. I planned how I would go there when I turned 18. I imagined standing in the desert, feeling closer to my mom than I ever had since she died. It was my escape, my secret, my power. Until Karen said that sentence. Pack your bags. We're taking a trip. She stood in my doorway, arms crossed, eyes bright. My dad was at work. The house was quiet except for the ticking clock. Where? I asked. She tilted her head. Arizona. My stomach dropped. I laughed because I had to. Why Arizona? Karen walked into my room without asking. She sat on my bed. She picked up my blue suitcase. The destination, she said slowly, is a little desert town with a motel off Route 89. The room spun. I never imagined she knew about it. I watched her face for any sign of a joke. There was none. Her smile was calm. Sure. Certain. How do you know about that? I asked. She shrugged. Your mother left more behind than you think. That was the moment something hard formed inside me. Fear, yes, but also something sharp. Anger. Karen thought this trip was for her. She thought she was in control. She was wrong. The drive started before sunrise. Karen drove. I sat quiet, staring out the window, counting miles and planning. She talked the whole way. About bonding. About fresh starts. About how she wanted us to be real family. I nodded when needed. Inside, I was building something stronger than fear. When we stopped for gas, I checked my phone. No signal. Desert stretched forever. Hours later, the motel appeared, just like on the map. One floor. Faded sign. Empty parking lot. Karen parked and turned off the engine. Here we are, she said. I followed her inside. The air smelled like dust and old carpets. The clerk barely looked up. Karen booked one room. 2 beds. That night, I waited until she fell asleep. I opened my suitcase. I took out my mom's letters. I took out the map. I took out the small recorder I had bought months ago just in case. I knew this place held answers. I just didn't know Karen was one of them. The next morning, Karen said we were going for a walk. She led me behind the motel, past broken fences, toward the open desert. The sun burned my skin. My heart pounded. "This is where it happened," she said. "Happened?" I asked. She turned to me, and her smile was gone. "This," she said softly, "is where your mother ruined my life." The words hit harder than any slap. I took a step back. The desert felt too wide, too empty. "What do you mean?" I whispered. Karen stepped closer. "I think you already know." I pressed record in my pocket. And then she told me the truth, the kind of truth that changes everything. That my mother had discovered something she wasn't supposed to. That Karen hadn't come into our lives by chance. That this trip was never about bonding. It was about finishing something that started years ago. Karen reached into her bag. That was when I realized this wasn't just a trip. It was a threat. Karen's hand came out of her bag, holding something small and dark. For one wild second, I thought it was a gun. My breath stopped. My legs felt weak. The desert wind pushed dust around our feet, like it was trying to hide us from the world. But it wasn't a gun. It was a thick brown envelope. She waved it slowly, enjoying the fear on my face. "Relax, Lily," she said. "If I wanted you gone, this desert would have already swallowed you." My heart still beat, so hard it hurt. "What is that?" I asked.
"Proof," she said.
"And leverage." She turned and walked back toward the motel, like nothing had happened. Like she hadn't just cracked my world open and smiled while doing it. I followed because I had no choice. Inside the room, Karen locked the door.
Click.
The sound echoed in my head. She poured herself a glass of water and sat on the bed. I stayed standing. "You recorded me, didn't you?" she asked calmly. My blood turned to ice. I said nothing. Karen smiled again. "You press your pocket every time you're scared. Your mother did the same thing." I swallowed. She leaned forward. "You're smarter than I thought." "That's good. Smart girls survive." She opened the envelope and spread the contents on the bed. Photos. Papers. Old documents with faded ink. I recognized my mom in one photo. She stood next to a man I had never seen before. They were outside this same motel. "Your mother was digging," Karen said. "She found out about money that disappeared. Insurance money. Someone who wasn't supposed to benefit did." My hands shook. "You're lying." Karen slid a paper toward me. It was a bank transfer. A name at the bottom. Karen Mitchell. My stepmom's maiden name. "She confronted me," Karen continued. "She said she was going to the police."
My ears rang.
"You killed her." Karen laughed softly.
No.
"I didn't have to. I just scared her enough. The room felt too small." "She drove herself crazy," Karen said. "Stress.
Fear. Panic."
Her heart couldn't take it. I wanted to scream. I wanted to jump at her. Instead, I stood still and listened. Every word mattered. "And now," Karen said, folding the papers back into the envelope, "you're here because loose ends are dangerous." That was when I understood. This trip wasn't about my mom.
It was about me.
Karen stood up and walked closer. "You're going to go home," she said. "You're going to forget this place. You're going to stop looking. And you're going to be a good, quiet girl." I looked at her and nodded. Inside, I smiled. Because she had made one mistake. She thought fear meant control. That night, Karen went out for a walk. She locked me in the room from the outside. She didn't know I had picked the lock earlier. She didn't know I had already copied the papers with my phone. She didn't know I had sent the recordings to my email. She didn't know I was done being scared. I waited 10 minutes after she left. Then I slipped out and followed her tracks into the dark desert. The moon was bright. I kept my distance. My heart pounded, but my mind was clear. Karen stopped near an old shed half buried in sand. She opened the door and stepped inside. I crept closer and listened. She was on the phone.
"Yes," she said.
"I have the girl." "No, she doesn't know everything. Tomorrow we leave."
Pause.
"No," Karen said, her voice sharp. "After that, it won't matter." My stomach dropped. I stepped back too fast. A rock slid under my foot. The shed door flew open. Karen's eyes locked onto mine.
Her face changed.
No smile. No softness. Only anger. So, she said quietly, you chose the hard way. She reached into her pocket. And this time, it really was a gun. The gun looked heavier than it should have. Black. Cold.
Real.
My legs moved before my mind did. I ran. The desert at night is loud when you are scared. My breath, my steps, my heart, everything felt too big. Sand slipped under my shoes. I didn't look back. A shot cracked the air. I screamed without sound and ran harder. The dark swallowed me as I zigzagged, just like my mom once taught me when we played hide and seek. I didn't know if Karen fired to scare me or to kill me. I didn't want to find out. I dove behind a large rock and pressed myself flat. My chest burned. I covered my mouth with both hands. Footsteps crunched closer. Lily, Karen called softly. Don't make this worse. I closed my eyes. She was close. Too close. Then her phone rang. She cursed under her breath and stepped away to answer it. I heard pieces of her words float through the night. Yes, she ran. No, I'll handle it. I waited until her voice faded. Then I crawled backward, slow and careful, until I could stand. I ran in the opposite direction. I didn't stop until the motel lights appeared. I banged on the door of the clerk's office. He stared at me like I was a ghost. She has a gun, I said.
Please.
Call the police. He hesitated. Then Karen's car headlights swept across the parking lot. She's my stepmom, I cried. She's trying to hurt me. The clerk picked up the phone. Karen's car stopped. She got out slowly, hands raised, smiling again. There you are, she said sweetly.
She's confused.
She's been having panic attacks. I shook my head hard. She's lying. Police lights flashed in the distance. Karen's smile slipped. The officers arrived fast. They questioned us both. Karen cried. I shook. I told them everything, but not all of it. I didn't mention the money. I didn't mention the papers. I didn't mention the recording. Karen was good. Very good. She said the gun was for protection. She said I had been acting strange. They let her go. But they warned her. Back in a room, Karen locked the door again. This time, she didn't smile. You just made this serious, she said. I met her eyes. You already did.
She slapped me. Hard.
Stars exploded in my head. I tasted blood. Karen leaned close. Tomorrow we go home, she whispered. And when we do, I finish this. That night, I didn't sleep. I planned. At dawn, Karen packed the car. I pretended to obey. My phone buzzed quietly in my pocket. An email reply. From a lawyer. Subject line. Your mother tried to warn us. My hands shook as I read. Karen turned the key in the ignition. I looked at her and smiled. Because now I had proof. And she had no idea what was about to happen. The car rolled onto the highway, just as police sirens exploded behind us. The sirens grew louder. Karen's hands tightened on the steering wheel. Her face went pale, then red, then calm again, like she was putting on a mask she had worn many times before.
Sit still, she said.
Say nothing. I did the opposite. I already sent everything, I said softly. Her eyes flicked to me. What did you send? I leaned back in my seat. My heart was racing, but my voice was steady. The recordings. The photos. The bank papers.
The map.
Everything my mom left. Everything you showed me. She laughed once.
Sharp. Fake.
You're lying. I shook my head. I emailed them to a lawyer. And to the police. And to my dad. The car swerved. Karen pulled over hard, gravel flying. She turned to me, and for the first time, she looked scared. You think they'll believe a child? She snapped. I met her eyes. They already do. The police cars stopped behind us. Doors opened. Hands went to belts. An officer walked up. Ma'am, step out of the vehicle. Karen smiled again, but it didn't reach her eyes. She stepped out slowly. Another officer opened my door. Are you Lily Carter? Yes, I said. You're safe now. Safe. The word felt strange.
Heavy. New.
They separated us. I watched as Karen talked fast, her hands moving, her voice sweet. Then the officer's face changed. He listened. He nodded. He stepped back. They put handcuffs on her. Karen turned and looked at me as they led her away. The smile was gone. In its place was pure hate. This isn't over, she said. I didn't answer. Back home, everything moved quickly. My dad listened to the recordings with his face in his hands. He cried in a way I had never seen before. He kept saying my mom's name, over and over. Karen was charged.
Fraud. Threats.
Illegal firearm possession. And more came later. The lawyer told me the truth. My mother had known Karen before she ever met my dad. Karen had been watching us for years. Waiting. Planning. But my mom had planned too. She left the map. She left the letters. She left the truth. She trusted me to finish it. Karen went to prison. The house felt lighter after she left. The gray walls were painted yellow again. My mom's photos went back up. Sometimes I still think about the desert, about how close I came to disappearing. But I didn't, because she thought I was weak. And that was her biggest mistake. I didn't just survive her trip. I ended it.